Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR, HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
In all things in beauty. Welcome to RadioAMB, designed for those who want to live a long and vibrant life. Happy New Year's. This is Patty Smucker, and I've been in the industry for over 40 years. Here at RadioAMB, which we are starting our third year, we tell the secrets behind the making of health and beauty products. Our segment sponsor today is AmericanMadeBeauty.com, a beauty platform designed to help consumers find beauty companies that are implementing the industry's best practices to bring you quality products and services. Would you like to try some of our American-made beauty products? Go to AmericanMadeBeauty.com and log on to our consumer page to be able to sample your products. As we closed 2016 and we look ahead now to this new year, many of us use this time to reflect on what is behind us and to set goals for the year ahead. As I began this process for myself, realizing for the first time in my life that I am deeply disturbed by the outcome of the election, I really forced me to dig deep for qualified resources to help me make sense of the world that we all are going to need to navigate in the coming years. I was pleased that earlier last year I began doing some work and found one resource that for the past 45 years has helped all kinds of organizations create the future they want. I'm delighted to bring you this story to help us kick off 2017. The Institute for the Future, also referred to as IFTF, is an independent nonprofit research organization based in Northern California. IFTF is made up of a core research staff and creative design studio that works together to provide practical foresight for a world undergoing rapid change. Their experienced forecasters represent a range of disciplines from social sciences, public policy, and technical domains. They are joined by creative designers who render their research in accessible and innovative print and digital formats. Their network extends to include affiliates that bring diverse perspectives and experiences to research and events. From university professors to independent thought leaders and hands-on innovators, IFTF is at the forefront of new ideas and practices worldwide. During our feature segment, you'll meet one of their esteemed researchers who you could say was born into the business. You'll learn about Miriam Lueck Avery's early life and factors that led to the work she's doing today. She'll tell us about IFTF and how their team helps companies make the future with foresight. During the next 3 segments of the show, we'll take you through a fascinating conversation about things that you've seen in 2015, 2016, and plan for 2017 that help us imagine what 2020 or 2025 will be like. You'll learn about Miriam's own clarity statement that has informed her research to include the relationships between health and beauty, micro, human, and earth biomes, beauty, self-care, and much more. So let's not waste another moment in getting started. Miriam Lueck Avery is a research director with the Institute for the Future. As an anthropologist, Miriam has an overarching interest in how individuals and collective choices make the future. Miriam investigates the future of how we will take care of ourselves and one another, ranging from self-care to healthcare, work and aging, nutrition and food systems. She began interning at IFTF in 2013, joined the research staff full-time in 2007, and serves as a research director. Her passion as a forecaster is envisioning futures that inspire people to urgent optimism. She presents forecasts in strategic roadmaps, conferences, panel discussions, and keynote presentations. She also designs group processes that facilitate anticipating the future and making strategic decisions in the present. She holds a BA in anthropology from the University of California, Berkeley. Welcome, Miriam, and we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, Patty.
You know, our show, we've featured people from all walks of life, but you're our first anthropologist. Tell us a little bit about what motivated you to explore a career in anthropology.
So you mentioned this in your introduction, which is very kind, but I was sort of born into anthropology. I'm a third-generation anthropologist. My grandmother was an oral historian. My mother is an anthropologist, and I grew up traveling around the world and learning other languages and learning about other cultures. And while I studied quite broadly in my undergraduate, everything from civil engineering to integrative biology and public health, I found myself drawn again and again to anthropology and the way it allows us to think about the complexity of what humans do and how that changes over time and how that helps us make sense of a world that's very complex and often quite confusing because humans are very unpredictable, and understanding them a little bit better helps us prepare ourselves for the future.
And that's really, at the core, that sounds like helping people to understand what exactly does an anthropologist do today.
Yes.
And so tell us what typically, if somebody was going to go, is there fields of anthropology?
Yes, absolutely. So anthropology is the study of humans, anthropos, the study of man, and it's been an academic discipline for a little over 100 years now and helped us understand the variety of human experience throughout the early stages of globalization, understand what different languages there are that humans use. So linguistics began as a field of anthropology. Understand what humans are biologically. So physical anthropology is the study of human evolution and physiology. And then cultural anthropology, which is what I specialized in, which is all of the different things that humans do and what their cultures are, how those cultures change. And then archeology, which is how that plays out in material culture, artifacts, things like that. So most anthropologists, if they're working in an academic situation, will do field work, will go somewhere in the world and embed there very deeply, do what we call participant observation, live with people, learn the language, and understand what's happening in that place, and then write books about it. And so my mother has written several books on Silicon Valley and what that is as a cultural phenomenon. When you're out in industry or doing other things, such as what I'm doing, you still go out and talk to people about their lives. I do interviews. I do participant observation. I do field work, in other words, and then I take that and interpret it, analyze it, and in my case, at the Institute for the Future, present it to research sponsors and decision makers to help them understand how change is happening on the ground.
And so that really helps us to sort of give a framework for IFTF. Give us a broader concept about what is IFTF and the work that they're doing in the world today.
Sure. So the Institute for the Future is a 501c3 nonprofit. We were founded in 1968, so we're coming up on our 49th anniversary, actually. And we were founded originally by computer scientists and futurists who were working on the early technologies that would become the Internet. And they were creating simulations and trying to imagine what the world would be like with these powerful new technologies. They were so inspired by what they were discovering, the methods that they were coming up with, they decided they couldn't do it in classified government settings anymore. They wanted it to be a public institution that would help all sectors of society think about the future. And so they founded IFTF, and we've existed as a research think tank and an educational nonprofit for the last 49 years. And we work with people in all different kinds of organizations, government agencies, large companies, large nonprofits, even community groups, to think about how the future is changing and how everyone can make better decisions today based on that change. So instead of letting things like the next quarterly earnings or what your boss is really worried about right now guide your decision making, you can take a step back and look at the consequences of decisions 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line and let those guide your decisions instead. And so we work where most of us, as you said, identify as researchers, some of them anthropologists, some of them historians or public policy researchers, even some computer scientists, and I have some of my most talented colleagues have backgrounds in the sociology of religion. We look at all different kinds of change and tell stories about that change and engage people in processes to help them think differently and make decisions differently.
And it seems like a fascinating lens of the world. I mean, I can't even imagine what it would have been like for those who started the organization 49 years ago to hypothesize about what our world would look like with the Internet. Were they close?
They were amazingly close. So there's actually a publication that came out right before, out of the RAND Corporation, before one of our founders, Paul Brand, left it, which was a sort of diagram of what became the structure of the Internet, of a distributed, not a centralized structure as most technology structures were at the time, but a distributed structure. And we're finding in some ways we're still exploring all of the implications of that shift in mindset and the shift in the technical capabilities to make distributed systems, which is the same as the shift between a centralized military and a distributed group like ISIS, right? That same logic of distributing power, of creating really resilient networks, is still resounding in our world today. And I love going back and reading really old reports. One of my favorite was from 1974, and it was an exploration of at-home telecommunications broadband technology in 1974, when this was, it was considered purely a technology for scientists to share large data files with one another.
Right.
And the idea of a PC hadn't been coined for another 15 years or so, and it included things like video libraries of plays and movies, person-to-person paid work at home. Just this entire table of like 50-some use cases that they could imagine at that time that basically encompasses most of the industries that are driving our economy today, of e-commerce and entertainment, and that sort of ambition to be able to think of things that seem, in the words of Jim Dater, who's a very influential futurist, at first seem ridiculous, but then become really useful to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So help our audience to understand what specifically do you do at the organization?
So I spend some of my time on the research side. I do ethnographic work. I do other kinds of secondary research. I spend a lot of time on the Internet reading blogs and trend feeds and just sort of staying up to date on emerging science and technologies that are relevant to my interests. And I construct projects. I do those projects with clients or with groups of research sponsors. And so I spend a fair amount of time on the road doing workshops, giving speeches, and that kind of thing. And I also increasingly teach the skills of foresight, so how to take current events and put them through a futures lens and imagine what they'll be like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and then relating those back to the decisions of today. And so I offer classes in Palo Alto and around the world, and so I teach those to everyone from high school technology administrators to members of the armed forces. That's a very rewarding part of my work now is teaching the basic skills of foresight.
And so let's talk about foresight. So help us to understand, because I mean that really is at the heart of how you're able to look at predictive models moving forward. Can you give us a little bit of a background in terms of what does foresight thinking look like?
Sure. So the one caveat that we always start with is that we're not actually talking about prediction.
Okay.
And that prediction is, especially the way that it's used in a business context, sort of assumes that the future is already out there, and you just need to be able to put your finger on it, and if you're right, then that will happen. And we sort of shy away from that idea at the Institute. The foundation of future studies from Wendell Bell in 1964 states that there are no future facts, and we hold to that very strongly, that there is no single future out there to be predicted. What we can do is imagine alternatives and build our skills in being able to imagine if this happens, then what are the consequences? And to make that real and vivid through storytelling disciplines. So I do a lot of scenario work where we look at lots and lots of indicators of the current state of economics, the current state of technology, the current dynamics within an industry, and then based on those indicators, imagine 3 or 4 different possibilities of what could happen from here. Political events, you mentioned the election, that is sort of one driver of different possibilities, but there are many, many other drivers of possibilities that we can think about and cluster and aggregate and build some stories around how the world could be different and how our current strategies would be more or less successful, more or less resilient in those different possibilities.
And so that makes you break it down into something that sounds plausible. I love what you said about the fact that it is based on the assumption that there is no future that already exists, and that there are no future facts. I think that those are important distinctions. So when we look at what's happened, 2015, 2016, and 2017 is right on us, help us to imagine what does 2020 and 2025 look like? Right.
So when you look at 2016, we have a lot of really interesting advances, and I think we're going to get to talk a little bit in the next few segments about some of the beauty-specific advances. But thinking broadly about the whole world changing, we have a rise in distributed political movements that we've seen over the last decade and that we felt very acutely in 2016. We have increasingly vivid media experiences. So we have more smart objects. We have more immersive virtual reality. That's finally hitting a stride where it's about to become quite mainstream. We see the continuation of the saturation of smartphones. So that as one of the most rapidly adopted technologies in human history, that's becoming really, really robust, and that has implications that I think will continue to resound. One of IFTF's past president, Ray Amara, has a law of future studies that we have a tendency to overestimate things in the short term and underestimate them in the long term. And I think in 2016 we've seen a lot of things that we've underestimated come into their full potential, and also planting the seeds of things that will be really transformative. So if we look out to 2020, we're going to see a presidential election where the lessons of 2016 will really be incorporated in some fairly unpredictable ways in terms of how campaigns are managed, how candidates interact with people, how the media operates, for instance, what gender issues and self-presentation means, for instance. When we look out to 2025, 2026, then we can imagine things like children who experienced this year being able to vote.
Right.
And so when you think about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the really interesting thing that makes, my heart sing and gets me going every morning as an anthropologist is thinking about those broad cohort changes of what experiences do we have in the present that will then shape our future and how we react and how and what that means in terms of the markets that will open, markets that don't exist today, that they offer things that people want, and how people act ethically and politically in the world.
Great, and this is so exciting, and I was really looking forward to this conversation because that your vantage point in terms of your focus on the optimism and really looking at how we can see these things and be able to reflect on what can be the positive outcome, I think is really interesting. We're going to take a so stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Over here. Here's a secret for a virus-free computer. ESET. They've been a pioneer in the antivirus industry for over 25 years. 25 years of innovative, top-rated antivirus protection. ESET's award-winning security solutions provide a safe online experience for over 100 million home and business computer owners. They are so affordable, fast, and simple to use. So be gone, you blue screen of death. ESET's on my computer. If it's not on yours, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on ESET now.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
What does HealthyLife.net and Amazon.com have in common? Well, they're both available on the Internet. They both give great value. But most important, most of our positive program hosts and guests are accomplished authors, and their books are available from, you got it, Amazon.com. Now, it even gets better than that, because when you're listening on air to a HealthyLife.net host or guest, you can go directly to Amazon.com, and you can order your book while you're still listening to your favorite HealthyLife.net program. So when you hear an author you like, go to the homepage of HealthyLife.net and click on Amazon.com.
Where positive people and radio unite. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back to RadioAMB. I'm Patty Smucker, and we're here with Miriam Lueck Avery, a research director with the Institute for the Future. Miriam, we talked about foresight and how you use that as a mindset to navigate complex transitions. Tell us a little bit about how you apply that with some of the things that have happened in 2016.
Sure. So foresight is about accepting the complexity of the world and then finding your way through it. And my colleague Bob Johansen likes to borrow from commander's intent and other sort of military metaphors that if you have a very clear idea of where you're going, it allows you to be very flexible about how you get there. And that's a sort of essential part of the foresight mindset that I try to teach is how do you separate oversimplification from clarity, and how do you look at complexity and find statements about what you want to accomplish, statements about your vision for the world and what you want the future to look like that can be boiled down and communicated very, very clearly. And what that clarity buys you is then flexibility on what kinds of strategies and tactics and considerations, novel partnerships you can consider to be able to make that clarity a reality. So you mentioned in your introduction of me that I have a clarity statement, and that is something that I encourage people to create, not just for their businesses, but for themselves. And so I've created my clarity statement as investigating the future of how we'll take care of ourselves, of one another, and I would add the planet. And that statement of what I'm really interested in, how humans express caring, and how that operates as a social process, as a literal set of activities, as a set of industries and markets, has really allowed me to investigate really, really diverse, complex things, but always bring it back to the clarity of what I'm really interested in, which is caring and caregiving and how that operates as a human activity. So looking back at 2016, all of the conversations we had about public grief, for instance, with losing so many really beloved characters, that was very interesting to me because we were negotiating about how to care for ourselves, how to deal with emotional distress, from grief on one hand, from anger at political processes on another hand, that it gives me a lens through which I can look at these very complex things and some of which very upsetting things and go, man, isn't that interesting? And if we really pay attention to how interesting it is, then maybe we can learn something. Maybe we can learn how to better facilitate public emotional processes. Maybe we can learn how better to deal with displays of emotion that seem out of place. And so that clarity statement gives me the ability to operate as a very curious individual in the world, which is an essential part of the foresight mindset, to not get overwhelmed by the complexity, and then to try to find some value out of it, try to find who can learn from this in a way that helps them make better decisions.
And I find that very interesting that you're able to look at, the discipline is to look at and observe and to see what lessons you can learn from it. But you also mentioned something that is not to get overwhelmed. In a time for some people that seems so incredibly scary, how do you help people to develop that skill set not to get overwhelmed?
Well, it's difficult. And so I offer no magic bullets. But the ability to put things in a larger context and keep zooming out and zooming in, and sometimes focus on like the really specific details of what actually happened versus, what we think happened or what a pundit says happened, and then out into the big historical context. That ability to zoom in and out has profound applications for not getting overwhelmed. So one of the fundamental skills that we teach in our foresight classes and that we use at IFTF to do our work is called signal scanning or horizon scanning. And people may have heard of the weak signals methodology out of the intelligence community, and that's part of how intelligence is gathered. But basically, you're looking for specific, concrete events and observations that may be below the radar, that are either too faint for trend forecasters and cool hunters to pick up, or are a little bit weird, that are not exactly what other people are looking for. And to be able to gather those specific observations, analyze them with those clear questions, those clarity statements in mind, and then come up with something that's of value, that's a little harder to articulate or a little bit non-obvious. And then to be able to, part of that sense-making of taking these really small, really disparate observations is to be able to put them in a larger context. So, I'm looking at, whether I'm looking at political cartoons or advertisements for beauty products or patent investments of like what people are saying they're about to start making, or investments in particular streams of research or particular kinds of startups. I'm looking at those signals just like venture capitalists look at those kinds of signals. I'm also looking at research labs where particular research is going on, what kinds of studies people are publishing, what they're presenting at different conferences, and I'm looking at that in the context of how is this market developing, what are similar markets that have developed in the past, what are there parallels with history that are useful to draw. So I've actually, in this political environment, I've actually been reading a lot about 1886 and 87, when Rutherford B. Hayes was elected, and what were the political movements happening then? What were the narratives? What was the tension around the Electoral College? And just being able to find parallels, whether it's the development of the microbiome in the beauty industry or in the political space, to be able to find historical parallels and to find that larger context. It's a very analytical task, so it kind of takes you out of the emotions of being overwhelmed, but it gives you such a sense of understanding and reassurance that it's a very useful activity for anyone to do. Be specific about your own observations and take the big picture.
Well, and when you said something earlier about we tend to overemphasize in the short term and underemphasize in the long term. So it sounds like that again, a lot about context.
Yes, yeah. Amara's law, we tend to overestimate the impact of phenomena in the short term and underestimate it in the long term.
Right. All right, well, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk specifically about the relationship between health and beauty when we return. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Here's the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com.
For all your live or pre-recorded webcasting needs, come to earthchannel.com. Get your web-based message out to a select group or the whole world. It's easy. A pioneer in webcasting, earthchannel.com provides the best products and services to big corporations and government users. And now this same technology is available to you. They have the best Earthcast encoders, servers, and products to meet your technical needs. But wait, don't want to mess with technical stress? No problem. They'll do it for you. Earthchannel.com is your answer. You can use webcasting for lots of things like advertising, marketing, customer support, training, and don't forget web radio and TV. In fact, you're listening to a live Earthcast right now. So come to Earthchannel.com. Actualize your audio or video webcasting needs today. You can't beat the friendly service or the price. Call earthchannel.com at 1-800-849-8978. That's 1-800-849-8978.
We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
When you're looking for bedding, department store prices can shock you. Well, be shocked no more. Sell steak cheap, not cheap steak. That's the motto of Anna's Linens. Although they don't sell steak, they do sell the best bedding, bath, and home decor items. They strive to provide their merchandise at extreme value to their customers, and they do it. Great everyday prices on everything and military discounts. Plus, if you visit them online, they have clearance items and internet specials. Visit them online now at HealthyLife.net's advertiser page.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back. You're listening to RadioAMB on HealthyLife.net. This is Patty Smucker, your host, and I'm here with Miriam Lueck Avery of the Institute for the Future. Miriam, we've been talking about what has happened in the past and how that helps to give us context for the way that we're living today and having some predictability over what will be coming up ahead. Talk to us a little bit about your clarifying statement about how we take care of ourselves, each other, and the planet, and the relationship between beauty and health.
Mm-hmm. So taking care as a fundamental human activity has a lot of really deep meanings and connotations, which is why I love it as part of my clarity statement. The actual origins of the word are from Norse and German and refer to grief and strife and struggle. And I think that it holds a lot of what we do for ourselves in terms of self-care and what we talk about in terms of the industries of personal care markets and healthcare together in a sort of illuminating way. They say pain is beauty and beauty is pain. That kind of goes to the core of what care is it's something that you spend energy over, that you pour yourself into because you care about it, because it's important, and because it's worth that kind of sacrifice. And if you think about the relationship between taking care of yourself and taking care of someone else, taking care of, say, a child or an aging person, there's that sort of balance of it's an act of love, but it's also an act of sacrifice. And that, to me, resonates all the way up to our relationship with the planet, that if we act responsibly, there are sacrifices in terms of the profits that we're able to make, the kinds of effects that we're able to get from different compounds from plants and petroleum chemicals and all of that. But those sacrifices are worth it because they allow us to be alive and have businesses in the first place. And so that tension, that it requires sacrifice, but it's worth it, that is really the tension that I'm interested in. How do we as individuals make that calculation? How do we as families and societies make that calculation, and how do we translate what's happening with this very intensely values-based, very cultural calculus of what care is and when do we provide it and how do we value it in different ways? How do we take that and translate it into markets and business decisions?
And so how do you see that as it relates to what's happened and where we're at right now? Because obviously the Affordable Care Act and the way that we take care of ourselves as a society is one of the central themes of what's up in upheaval at this particular time in our society.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is a real tension in how we value care. And I think you don't even have to look at the Affordable Care Act, although you certainly can, because of affordability of care and how we pay for health care, which is very expensive kind of care, is sort of at a key issue. This really became clear to me when I was working on a project on caregiving. And on the future of family caregiving, which is explicitly care that is given by family members without pay. And that's a whole area of advocacy. There are some provisions in the ACA for it, and there are some state legislations that are going into effect. And I think that we'll see more and more sort of state-level legislative moves in the U.S. around healthcare policy, especially in the next several years. But how do you compensate people for this activity that has an impact on their health? Caregivers suffer from an increased incidence of stress-related chronic illnesses and mental health issues, and that impacts their ability to earn. So medical bankruptcies and cashing out retirements early. How do you allow people to do this vital work of society, taking care of others, without destroying themselves, both financially and health-wise? And a lot of that has to do with getting them compensated in monetary terms, so actually paying them, and allowing them to pay others, getting them assistance to hire caregivers. That said, we want those caregivers to have a living wage, but how can we do that while providing assistance for them to come into someone else's home? And so that really is, I think, at the core of what's happening at a policy level is what do we decide is worthy enough to pay for, and when do we say, no, that's just what it means to be a family member. You don't get compensated for that. You don't get protected from your lost wages. You don't get special vouchers for particular kinds of preventative health care because you're fulfilling this vital social task.
And so I think it's fascinating that we're having the opportunity that these kinds of thinking processes are underway. You have the same kind of thinking around beauty and self-care research. Can you share some of the things that are top of mind for you around beauty and self-care research?
Yeah. I think that so very quickly then, the key I think question in beauty and self-care is how individualistic can we get, and how much are we a part of striving for an ideal that's a shared ideal, and how much are we actually reflecting something that is a matter of our own self-care, a matter of our own health, a matter of our own well-being, and on a very personal level.
All right, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we'll explore the answer to that. So stay with us. We're here with Miriam Lueck Avery with the Institute for the Future. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
the thing about beauty. It's pretty. At AmericanMadeBeauty.com, we're all about the pretty, making it easy for you to find what makes your beauty shine. We have essentially everything you need, and AmericanMadeBeauty.com celebrates brands that were created right here in the U.S. of A. Imagine everything you need from the best hair, skin, and nail products to makeup and even the tools, because it's all about pretty at AmericanMadeBeauty.com. We also think you're pretty important, so visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com. Browse, buy, learn. AmericanMadeBeauty.com.
When you're looking for bedding, department store prices can shock you. Well, be shocked no more. Sell steak cheap, not cheap steak. That's the motto of Anna's Linens. Although they don't sell steak, they do sell the best bedding, bath, and home decor items. They strive to provide their merchandise at extreme value to their customers, and they do it. Great everyday prices on everything and military discounts. Plus, if you visit them online, they have clearance items and internet specials. Visit them online now at HealthyLife.net's advertiser page.
We're looking for a few good American beauty manufacturers who want to increase their brand in an exclusive credentialed category. If you're an American company who has conceived, designed, and bottled brands that are all about pretty, then we're pretty sure we're talking about you. And we're pretty sure you should be on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. This beauty website focuses on entrepreneurs and beauty startups as well as established brands. If it's pretty, we want to see it, and we want to sell it on AmericanMadeBeauty.com. To learn how you can be part of AmericanMadeBeauty.com, visit AmericanMadeBeauty.com now.
Oh, man, it never fails. My suitcase just got ripped apart.
Life is a journey. Make it a pleasant one. Use Samsonite. You know the name. For almost a century, Samsonite luggage has proved itself to be the worldwide leader in innovative travel solutions. Let it be yours. Visit HealthyLife.net's affiliate Samsonite on our homepage and click to look at the fine luggage from suitcases to golf travel bags. And don't forget, take a look at their travel accessories. Make life a journey, a pleasant one, with Samsonite.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
Welcome back to Radio AMB. I'm Patty Smucker, and we're here with this fascinating conversation with the research director from the Institute for the Future, Miriam Lueck Avery. Miriam, we've been talking about beauty and healthcare is where we sort of left off, and you indicated that the key question is how much of this is going to be, how much can we individualize it, and also how we work with this shared ideal of well-being. Tell us a little bit about your thinking on all of that.
Yeah. So I think the beauty industry is a mass market offer with many thousands and thousands of sub-niches, has always been sort of organized around ideals of beauty. Ideals of beauty for different ages, ideals of beauty for different sort of lifestyles, whether you're a professional or whether you're a stay-at-home mom. We're very, very good at looking at swaths of consumers and segmenting them in various ways, based on shared characteristics, based on stated preferences and desires, based on things like skin tone, of what looks good on you. And the question there of what it means to look good on someone, to how much is that an ideal that is one ideal versus something that is absolutely personalized. And I think as long as I've been looking at this in the beauty industry, the question of personalization comes up again and again. And what's the difference between personalization and mass customization, and how can an industry that is used to operating like a consumer product good, like a personal care industry where you have flagship products with variations that go down into these market segments, how can it really understand what an individual offering really looks like? And that question, which is a cultural question, got me really interested in a whole other set of questions, which are science questions, around the human microbiome and what we're learning about the ecosystems of bacteria and fungi and viruses that live on our skin and in our guts. And what we're finding in that emerging science is that there is no such thing as a healthy human microbiome. There is no single ideal.
Say that again. There's no healthy human biome?
There is no single thing that is an ideal healthy human microbiome.
Okay.
Mine could be healthy, yours could be healthy, they could be completely different. And so what I found as I dug into this science is that here was a biology and a chemistry reason why personalization within beauty products is worth pursuing. Mm-hmm. And a different way to think about what beauty products are actually doing for us rather than adding something to us, right? Mm-hmm. Part of what we see with kind of emerging products like Mother Dirt from AO Biome, which is a live microbial mist, is that it's adding a live culture product to your skin, but it's also not removing your natural bacteria. Mm-hmm. And if you look at products like micellar water and that sort of biome-friendly sort of first generation of products, what they're doing is they're not removing your natural biome. So there's a value proposition that's not about what it can add to your beauty, but instead what of your essence can it draw out, can it accentuate? And that question of what your individual essence is and how can it shine is one that has always been there within beauty. It's sort of an undercurrent to the beauty ideal and satisfying some ideal, but I think that question of how can an individual achieve their healthiest, their most appropriate, their best potential, not just for themselves in general, but at a particular moment in their life. That is a really interesting question for how the beauty industry needs to start thinking about its products moving forward in the light of this new science and in the light of cultural movements around diversity and inclusion that have been happening for decades and decades. How can the beauty industry understand the rhythms of people's lives and their individual biology in a way that is useful for thinking about how to make new products, how to reach customers who will have very different expectations in 2026 than they do today.
Right. And that is such a shakeup. And just to make sure that I'm understanding, what we're talking about is that the human body is made up of this biome or this environment that is completely unique to each individual. And it's not only the cell biology. You said it earlier in a pre-interview that there's a certain percentage of our body that is not a human.
Mm-hmm. That if you look at cell for cell, and estimates differ, but if you look at the total DNA, 99% of the DNA that is in our body envelope is not human. 99% of the DNA that is occupying the space of your body actually belongs to viruses and bacteria. Now, by weight, that's only about 8 pounds. But that 8 pounds controls the function of your immune system, has incredible impacts on your mood and your energy. And, I've been investigating this quite closely with respect to the skin. The balance of bacteria and fungus are what's behind really, really tough nuts to crack, like atopic dermatitis or other autoimmune disorders like lupus, that we've had a really hard time understanding just what's going on, and an even harder time offering products that actually offer relief and a sense of beauty and well-being.
And again, it's just such a phenomenal the sciences have really changed what we understand about the body, but essentially what you're talking about is being able to, rather than making millions of bottles of the exact same thing, being able to figure out how to individualize that so that the natural combination of chemistry that's making up my human biome, my human environment, is different but can be ideal and healthy, even though it's very different from yours, is what you're saying.
Right, and so you're looking at supplements that you would eat that would change your aromas. There's already all kinds of edible perfumes, but things that would actually make your body taste better to particular kinds of bacteria so that they want to live on you and make you smell differently.
It really is mind-blowing to be able to think about the fact that the way that we've been approaching this is completely, it's based on what we've known about the body. And so now that as our understanding of the body changes, our understanding of what we can do to take care of it will change as well. Right, right. And how does that play in, Miriam, in terms of our interaction with each other? And
I'm sorry, could you ask that question again?
Well, we've only got 1 minute, but as we close this, because I would love we need to have you come back. There's much more to talk about.
There is much more to cover. I think the question of how that helps us understand households and the interaction of people who live together, how that helps us understand families and what products work within families and how we educate people about what actually works for them versus what would work for their siblings who are living in a different environment with a different biome and different animals around them. I think there are many, many questions and many fascinating possibilities in this space.
Well, thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. I definitely would love to have you back sooner than later. And I'm very excited about all of the work that you're doing. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Patty.
So we hope that you have a wonderful first week of the new year and that you'll join us next week for the icon maker Jean Bra Foster, who was at the epicenter of the John Paul Mitchell system when it first began, and today is helping hairdressers change lives by understanding cancer. Send your questions and comments to request at American Made Beauty. I'm Patty Smucker. You can hear Radio AMB on healthylife.net. Thank you for listening to Radio AMB, where we think pretty is pretty important in all things in beauty.